All right, let's see if I can get up so I can actually see people. Oh. All right. Clicker. Oh, yes. I need the clicker, sorry. Cool. All right. I think maybe we should start with a prayer. That's probably a good idea, isn't it? Cool. All right. All right. Dear Lord, I'm standing here right now full of anxiety. I'm being put into a position of something that I'm not used to doing. I'm talking to a bunch of scary people here. I know that throughout this week I've been toying about whether I could just pass this off to someone else, that I wouldn't have to be in this position where I'm filled with fear and the added stress of having to talk to people here. But I do know that through you, everything will be okay. As long as I put my faith in you and trust in you, I know that it will all work out. All right, let's see. Oh, cool, it's already up there. So today I'm talking about finding peace within the storm. So today I want to explore what it means to turn to Jesus and make him our source of peace, especially when life is feeling chaotic. As you heard me pray, when I was first asked to preach, I didn't think I was ready for this. I was just full of anxiety, which is quite ironic considering what I'm talking about is how to overcome the anxiety right now that I'm feeling. So what is peace? Peace isn't tangible. It isn't something that you can grasp and grab and put in your hand. The opposite of peace, fear and stress, well, that is all too tangible. If I was to throw a snake in your face right now, I'm sure that a lot of you would be quite scared. But there's nothing that you can put in my hand and poof, I'm now at peace. A lot of people say that they can give you peace. However, I've found that most people just seem to give me stress and chaos. Usually I find peace finally when they actually walk away and leave me alone. They give me some peace and quiet. And to me, that's what peace is. It's not the fact that there's all these stresses around us and I'm being taken away from them. It's the fact that even though there is all these stresses around me, I can have quiet. I can have calm. There's that beautiful story of Jesus when he's on the boat with the disciples, and they've all got the waves crashing around them, and they're all stressed, and they turn to Jesus and say, "What do we do?" And he just speaks out of the waves and he says, "Peace." And the waves are calm. Now, is it really that bad, though, to have fear? I know that a lot of people seem to say that when they're in a state of stress, that they thrive under it, they grow under pressure. Well, I found it interesting when I looked this up that studies have shown that if you are shown to overreact, constantly worry, and live in perpetual anxiety, then it can reduce your life expectancy. So not having peace will kill you. Now, fear also destroys faith, and it robs you of the courage needed to make a positive impact in the world. It prevents you from experiencing the abundant life that God has given out for us. I'm constantly reminded that God's plan for us is to live our best life, which is filled with courage, faith, and peace. So how can we find true peace? See, oh, there we go. It's good that's working. All right, so in John 14, verse 27, it says, "I'm leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid." So therefore, the second I became a Christian, I had peace. There's no fears in my world. I gave my life to God, and now no one's stressing me. I've got no anxieties. Everything's fine and everything's calm. Well, if you saw me when if a clown was to show up, you'd realize that I'm lying. Like I said before, becoming a Christian didn't mean that I didn't have fears. But it did mean that when these fears come along, I've got a rock I can turn to. Later on in John, it says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So no matter how hard things are getting, Jesus has already overcome it. We know that everything will be okay because he's on our side. Just as fear is used to undermine faith, we can use faith to combat fear. We know and trust that it will all be okay. Think of it like watching a scary movie for the second time. The first time that you watch that movie, you're going to be filled with the fear because you don't know what's going to happen. But upon rewatching it, you know the answer. You know that everything's going to be all right. And fear has no hold of you. That's what faith is. Faith is the assurance that we know the outcome. We know that we're going to be okay. And when we have that faith, there's no fear. So I want to share a little bit of my own testimony about what brought me to this place about wanting to talk about this today. There's been many things in my life where I've had stresses and things like that, but as many of you know, next month I'm hoping to get married to my fiancée Sharon. Woo! So both of us, we wanted to get married in Kenya. And we went to the church that Sharon's been a part of since she was a child, and we said, we want to get married. And they said, great, no worries. We signed and got the venue all set. The pastor was happy to marry us. And then out of nowhere, the pastor told us that there was some rules that meant that we couldn't get married, that they weren't willing to marry us. I was extremely stressed and fearful of it. My family had already bought tickets. We'd already been given, we'd given out the invites with the venue. That was this church. But out of nowhere, the previous pastor, the pastor who was the one that in some ways helped raise Sharon, he let us know that he was happy to marry us, which was great. However, we still didn't have a venue. So a few weeks later, then we got a message, which seemed like it was out of nowhere. They were saying, hey, you reserved this church, but we haven't heard anything. Are you still interested? Well, we wanted to turn to them and say, oh, well, you said that we can get married, but knowing better, we said, no, great, that's fine, that's great. Please let us marry there. It turns out that it's a different department that handles the venue that can do the marriage. So now we're getting married in the venue that we wanted, and we're getting married by a pastor that genuinely loves us and cares about us. Even so, he's getting connected with a bishop who had been praying that he would have a connection with Australia. There was many answers to our prayer. So now when something else comes up about the weddings, as you know, weddings are not easy. I don't have fear because God has shown me the miracles. He's shown me that everything will be okay. Now, I wish I could tell you that when I first heard about it, I did come from a place of peace. I did what I'm saying here, which is I turned to God and said, everything's going to be all right. No, I was filled with anger. I was angry at the church, God's messengers, who was, by my opinion, going against what the Bible was saying. I wasn't coming from a place of peace. I wasn't allowing God to step in and tell me and show me that it would be okay. It was the enemy coming to attack me. The enemy will use the world and anything else to elicit fear with you and attack your faith. I know that during that time, my response meant that it probably did shorten my lifespan. I definitely got a few grey hairs along the way because of it. During that time, I'd forgotten, or I chose not to remember, that God was my rock, that if I was to put my trust in him, it all would have been okay. There's a common saying that God will not give you more than you can handle. I hate that saying because usually when I'm told it, it's a place when I don't want to be handling it. Usually I'm going through things and people say, oh, God can give you what you can handle. I don't want to handle it. I don't want to be in this position. I want God to just take it away, pull me out of it, remove me. It's not helpful. I want to go, what are you doing, Lord? Get me out of here. However, every time after enduring those trials, I've grown from it. I've learned. I wouldn't be the man I am today if I hadn't have gone through those things. Those things have been a blessing. They have shaped me. Now, although I wouldn't want to relive those things again, I also wouldn't want to erase them. It has equipped me with the godly tools to handle these situations in the future. Now, I know that a lot of you have had hardships like mine, that you've questioned God's purpose. Some of your testimonies are far greater and far more distressing than some of the things I've gone through. Yet I'm sure that those very testimonies are what has provided you with wisdom to help yourself in the future, but also given you the ability to help others. The Bible says in James 1 verse 4, "Don't run from the tests and hardships, brothers and sisters. As difficult as they are, you will ultimately find joy in them. If you embrace them, your faith will blossom under pressure and teach you true patience as you endure. And true patience, brought on by endurance, will equip you to complete the long journey and cross the finish line, mature, complete, and wanting nothing." Sometimes we face difficult situations to allow us to grow and learn. They prepare us for the greater challenges ahead. Instead of coming from a place of fear or frustration and asking God to remove us from those situations, instead we should, well, I should point this way because you can't see there's a screen there, but instead we should instead of running from the tests, we should know that if we embrace them, our faith will blossom and we ourselves will grow. So therefore, true peace doesn't come from the absence of negative things, but from the abundance of Jesus, for he is our peace. I wish I could say I don't from the Bible. I wrote that. I'm really quite proud of that little bit there. I'll read on again. True peace doesn't come from the absence of negative things, but from the abundance of Jesus. So, how do we make it that our automatic response to fear and anxiety is one of rejoicing and of peace? Well, let's go and refer back to our little handbook, looking at the Bible here. It says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you." In every situation, through prayer and focusing on the positive, we will receive peace. Some of you know that I studied psychology and neuroscience in uni. And one thing that we learned was that the brain isn't rigid. So if you ever have the excuse, "Oh, that's just how I am," or "That's how I'm wired," or "That's the way I always will behave, that's how my brain is," it's not true. You can have and you do have the ability to physically change your brain. The way that works is we've actually got these neurons in our brain, and we've got billions and millions of them. And the ones that they fire in a little pathway of the one that's most trodden. Think of it like a trail. If you walk down a trail and a snake pops out of you, you're going to be filled with fear and anxiety. And the next time you take that trail, you're also going to be full of fear and anxiety again, even though the thing that caused the stress has gone. If we allow our brains to focus on that, we will be associating that experience with fear unless we consciously retrain it. Similarly to how we handle stress, and that can become a habit, how we can think of bad things and that can be the habit, the same thing happens how we handle the stresses themselves. If every time stress comes along, you turn to alcohol, or you turn to scrolling on your phone, or any other unhealthy coping mechanism, those neurons in your brain, that's how they're going to start firing. Every single time you have fear, then that's the way you're going to go. You're going to go to the distraction instead of going to the path of Jesus and consciously choosing the right path. So think of it like it is a pathway. The goal here is, instead of having the one that's nice and easy, which is the wrong way that our habits have allowed us to grow, we've got to create a new path and allow the other one to grow full of weeds, and make it harder to go down, and make the good path to be the one that is easier and more natural for us. That's why in Philippians 4:6-9, it emphasizes changing your mind by focusing on what is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, and admirable. You can change your heart, which in turn changes how you feel. You'll create a new neural pathway that leads to peace and positive outcomes rather than fear and anxiety. So I want to look at actually some practical ways that we can put that into place. And I want to share a few tools that I've learned from the Bible, from my life, and also from what I've studied in psychology. So here's some tips and tricks to help you hopefully cultivate some peace in your life. Tip 1 is to pray. Before in Philippians 4:6, verse 9, it said, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God." So there was some research done, actually, it was by a Christian and neuroscientist, as well as there's a Christian radiologist, that found that 12 minutes of daily prayer physically changes your brain for the better. You can actually see it in a brain scan. But they also found, let me just see where it is here, the part of the brain that responds to the fight or flight response, the part of your brain that responds to fear, prayer reduces and lowers blood pressure and your heart rate, as well as all symptoms of depression, anxiety, and PTSD. The way it works is you've got that part of your brain, the amygdala, that fires the fight or flight response. By praying, it makes a conscious decision to change it to your frontal cortex, and that's the area that's got your self-control and your discipline. So by us praying just 12 minutes a day, you will find that the fear that you're having in your life will change, and you'll become a little bit more rational and logical about it, and you're putting that fear, anxiety onto God and allowing Him to take it. Also, going back to Philippians, it says, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. I know that when you're full of anxiety, your brain will tend to spiral. Out of habit, you'll start by, in my case, thinking about the wedding, and I'm thinking about the things I haven't done. I'm thinking about all the things that still do, and also all the stresses of the past, because I've come from a place of anxiety with it. Instead, I need to retrain my brain to think about the things and the miracles that God has done. I need to focus on the fact that God has shown me that He's been able to find a pastor who can do it. We've got the venue, we've got all these miracles that have happened. So one way you can do that is by having that as a habit, but you can also write these things down. If you think back on all of the things in your life where God has come through for you, write it down on your phone, and the next time you're put into a position, like me today, having to speak in front of you scary people, I now can go back to all the times that I've spoken before and it has been all right. I can allow that to be my habit, the fact that God has fulfilled all things in my life for good. Change how we see fear. Oh, that's one that we just... there we go, yep. So that's the same thing. Sorry, so I'm going to have to swap them around a little bit and go back to the thinking of things that were good. Let's see. Oh, no, sorry. It's all right. Yes, I've got it. No, I've combined two into one, so that's fine. So that's all good. All right, let's just skip across over onto the next one. Cool. This one I love, fear and excitement. And this is a little trick that I did today. You can see I've got a big smile on my face because I'm excited to be here, even though I've told you before that I'm actually full of fear and anxiety standing in front of you guys. And that's because if we think about what fear is within us, fear is increasing your heart rate. It's sweating. You'll find that you might have a dry mouth. Adrenaline is going to shoot through your body. Excitement is the exact same thing. When I get excited, my heart rate goes up. My adrenaline starts going. So I trick my brain by saying, I'm not anxious right now. I don't have fear. That's why the Bible says, rejoice. And we heard about it before where it said, when things aren't going the way we want to, we can thank God for those things. I'm standing here and I'm excited to be able to talk to you guys. I've changed how my brain is now seeing the fear. This last one is repeat a calming phrase. If all else fails, you can repeat something that brings you closer to God. For some people, it's a Bible verse. Some people, it could be a song. I know that's one for me. And if all else fails, you can repeat something as simple as, Jesus, give me peace. Now, we say to children, when they get in that state, count to 10. This is the exact same thing. What you're doing is you're allowing that part of your brain, the fight or flight, to no longer be the thing that's taking control. You're going back to that logical part of your brain, and you're sending it to Jesus and saying, I want what you have to give me. So I'd like to finish now with a benediction, which I think couldn't be any more perfect. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you his peace.